Hey guys, it's Nettie again. So in this video, I'll be talking about how I got into K-pop. And sorry, I'm that kind of person that talks with their hands. So, anyways, back to the story. I've been into K-pop since I was in high school. I guess late high school because I was a senior at this point. And basically, I had some classmates, friends that I would always hear them talk about K-pop and K-pop this, K-pop that, but I really had no idea what K-pop was. And one day I just decided to join the conversation. I asked them what's K-pop, and they were like, oh, it's Korean music. And I'm like, oh, great music. I've always had a love for music. So, I love trying things and hearing new things. And at this time, high school year, I was kind of into like pop rock, Fall Out Boys, Green Day, all these kind of bands. I was really into bands. So, I was like, oh, cool. So I kind of researched K-pop, and I remember going in on YouTube and I checked, and I was like, what the hell? There was just so much. So I kind of gave up on it. And again, I would hear them talk about it, and I was like, well, who are your favorite singers? And they were like Super Junior, Girl Generation. And right when I got back home from school, I went into YouTube and was like Super Junior and Girl Generation. Honestly, at first I was like, what the hell is this, but I liked it, and I was like, oh, okay. So, I went back the next day and I kind of joined the conversation. I was like, oh yeah, I saw Super Junior and Girls' Generation. They're like, oh my god, you like it? And I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I had mixed emotions at that point, I guess. And they kind of gave me more like K-pop groups to look at. They were like, oh, listen to Shinhwa, Shiny, a bunch of artists, and I was like, okay, Kara, like just a bunch. And I really started liking it. So I remember downloading some music, and I would actually listen to it like quietly, like if I heard it in the car or something like that. I would like put my earphones really low because I didn't want anyone to hear that what I was listening to. And even at home, I had like a little boombox, and I would like put the music, connect my ancient iPod, and turn it up a little, and hardly you can hear. I would even put my freaking ear next to the speaker, just because I didn't want my parents to be like, what the hell are you listening to? My parents are like Mexican, and they would be like, what the fuck? So I did hide it for a couple years, but after I kind of walked away from K-pop, I just kind of went through a stage and listening to different kinds of music. And one day I was kind of bored. I couldn't find any new bands or anything like that. I felt like music was dying at this point, for me. And I was like, oh man, like I was just on YouTube looking at music, and I remember laying down that night and looking at my iPod, and I did have a K-pop playlist. So I was like, oh, I can't, let me hear this again. And that really like brought me back to like when I first heard it. I was like, oh cool, So I started getting more into it, and at this point I was kind of like, I like suffer with like anxiety, and like I went through like depression, and I kind of, sorry, I'm in a hotel right now, so I can hear, I don't know if they're watching a game. But anyways, I listened to it, and it just kind of became a hobby. I just started researching, and not really finding new groups, but just a little. At this point, I got into like Big Bang, 21, more recent, I guess, at that time, or sorry, I'm not making sense, just more K-pop groups. And I was like, oh cool, so it was kind of like a little hobby to keep my mind off things that were irrelevant at that time in my life. And I one day was at work, and there was this kind of new girl. We never really at work. She's a coworker. Let's call her Gigi, because she's a huge Girl Generation fan. So Gigi was kind of like working. We were kind of getting to know each other, becoming friends. And I've always been kind of not antisocial, but I was kind of again, in my life at that point, I was very like distant from everybody. And, I was like, okay, I need to go back to my life. And I started kind of making new friends. So Gigi was one of them. And, we were kind of talking about music. I was like, oh, what kind of music do you like? And she's like, oh, I like hip hop, rap. And she's like, what kind of music do you like? And I remember in my head thinking, just let it out. Just let it out. Say you like K-pop, like, even though it's embarrassing. But I was embarrassed at that time. And I was like, so I said, I was like, oh, yeah, I like pop rock and all that. But right now, lately, I know it's kind of weird, but I like K-pop. And her eyes were like, no, she's like, really? And I was like, yeah. She's like, me too. And I was like, no way. So, we kind of like became instant friends at that point, at that moment. And she started suggesting, like, she was asking me if I knew any groups. And of course, the first one she asked me was, do you know Girls' Generation? I was like, yes. And she started, oh, you should listen to EXO. You should listen to 2PM. You should listen, just a bunch of artists I've never heard before. So I remember going again back home and listening to it, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Because I kind of stayed in my old kind of music, I never really went on and looked for more. And then, so finding this, there was a YouTuber that I started watching. Well, I already watched him, but he had a K-pop channel, and I was like, oh, cool. And his name is Mychonny. He has a Mychonny, Daily Chonny. He has a bunch of channels. He has a K-pop Chonny, I believe. Sorry, I'll put the link below, but he does have a channel for K-pop. And he, again, huge Girl Generation fan, so I was like, oh, cool. So I know Girl Generation. So he would do like reactions to videos. And honestly, at that time, there wasn't really anyone in YouTube talking about K-pop. So it was really hard. And he was one that I would kind of look to update myself with it. And if there was, I just didn't know any other person that would do K-pop channel, like K-pop, talk about K-pop really. And so he kind of like, I thought he was hilarious, and I got really more into K-pop. And Gigi texted me one day and was like, hey, there's something called K-Con. And I was like, what's K-Con? And she's like, well, basically a bunch of artists, K-pop artists come to LA and, sing, they have merchandise and da-da-da-da. I was like, oh my God, I have to go. And I have another friend, the one I'm actually traveling to Korea with. I don't remember if it was like my Halloween party. I can't remember, but the point is, me and my friend were together, and I was like, she likes anime, so we always kind of talked about anime, not really about other things. And I just mentioned to her, I'm like, oh yeah, this year I'm planning to go to this thing called K-Con. And again, her eyes were like, what? She's like, I want to go. And I was like, you like K-pop? And she's like, yeah, I do like K-pop. And I was like, what the hell? I've known you for so many years and I don't know you like K-pop. And again, it was just something never brought up because none of us knew we listened to that. And so whatever. And she's like, no, yeah, I want to go. So, I hit up Gigi, and I was like, Gigi, is it cool if my friend goes with us? She's like, yeah, more the better, I was like, oh, okay. And so, again, didn't know too many K-pop groups at that time. And I believe that was 2015. That was my first K-Con year I went. And in the next video, I'll be talking about my K-Con experience. And again, it has to do with my K-pop journey, but I'm already doing, this video's kind of long already. So anyways, we decided to go to K-Con, and I was like, okay, I'm freaking excited. Again, I didn't know who was gonna be there or anything like that yet, but I was excited. I didn't care. And so we planned it out. We got a hotel, check, we got tickets, check. And so yeah, so in my next video, I'll talk about K-Con, and this is kind of what really got me into K-pop, addicted K-pop. So yeah, so in my next video I'll talk about that. See you.